friends, my name is Anna. Welcome back or welcome to my channel if you're new here. And today I'm going to show you how to make shepherd's pie. St. Patrick's Day, it's coming up, and I was like, what can I make for St. Patrick's Day? And I was thinking so hard. I was like, what do I know that I've made before that I love that's Irish? And I was like, okay, shepherd's pie. Here in the States, we know it as shepherd's pie, but it's actually called cottage pie. Shepherd's pie, just like the name says, it is with ground lamb, lamb shepherds. And then cottage pie is made with ground beef. That's the version we're going to make today. But here in the States, we know it as shepherd's pie. But there's actually that bit of a difference, which is the type of meat that you use. When I make this for a big crowd that I know I'm doubling the recipe, I love to do like 1 pound of ground beef and 1 pound of lamb. And it's just, the flavors together are so fantastic and so delicious, and they complement each other. Both meats complement each other beautifully. So if you want to do that, if you want to do like half ground beef, half ground lamb, go ahead and do that, and it will come out absolutely delicious. Like with any dish, with any recipe, there's usually a bit of uncertainty about where it actually originated. So some say shepherd's pie is from Ireland, so it's Irish, and then some say that it's actually from the UK. So, there's a bit back and forth of where it actually originated. I just want to put out there that this recipe, it's neither. This is my recipe, my take on shepherd's pie. It's not authentic by any means, but it is my favorite shepherd's pie recipe. So with all of that being said, I'm going to show you the ingredients. As you can see, there's quite a lot of ingredients, but it's nothing too crazy that you really can't find at your regular supermarket or anything like that. And to be honest, you might already have some of them on hand because they're quite simple ingredients. For the meat, you're going to need obviously some ground beef, beef stock or chicken stock. I have some wine. I have Worcestershire, however you say it. I always have trouble pronouncing this word. I think it's Worcestershire or Worcestershire. I don't know. Whatever you call it, you're gonna need the sauce. Here I have some frozen peas and corn, which I'm letting them thaw out a little. Then you're going to need rosemary, thyme, bits of flour. You're going to need some carrots, onions, garlic, tomato paste. And then for the mashed potato that you're going to put on top, you're going to need some half and half, Parmesan cheese, butter, egg yolks, and obviously your potatoes. If you don't want to use wine, you can always substitute it for a little more broth or water. And then for the cheese, I'm using Parmesan cheese, but I've used before like Irish cheddar cheese, like really good quality cheddar cheese, and it is delicious. It is so good, but I didn't have any on hand, and I'm not about to make another trip to the store to find Irish cheese. So I use what I have, and I think you should do too. Okay, so we're going to start by making our mashed potatoes. Well, making the potatoes to make mashed potatoes. So I'm going to do now, I have my pot here in which I'm going to boil the potatoes. So I'm going to peel the potatoes. I'm going to quarter the potatoes. We're going to boil them. Make sure you add a little bit of salt to your boiling water. I'm not going to show you this part because I think it's pretty self-explanatory, the whole process of boiling potatoes, in my opinion. So you can see I'm going to pretty big chunks, and I'm just going to throw it in there. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to change the water, and then I'm going to put it to boil. Then I'm going to see you back here so we can continue with our prepping. Okay, so we got our potatoes boiling in some water, and now what we're gonna do is mince our onions, garlic, and potatoes. If you've seen my bolognese video, you'll notice that I like to do this when it comes to any sauce, because I really don't want any big chunks of anything in it. So I like, the only thing I want big chunks of is like the peas and stuff like that. That I don't really mind to have the pieces, but when it comes to like carrots and onions, I really like to cut it very, very small. So I am going to do just that, and I'm doing it in my food processor because this is like the third recipe I've cooked today, so I'm tired. And I don't feel like chopping my onions very, very small. So I'm gonna do, as you can see, my food processor is quite small. So I'm gonna do half the onion first, and then I'm gonna add the other half of the onion, and obviously the carrot. Okay, and that is the reason I like to do it in the food processor because it literally takes like seconds. It is so quick. Okay, you saw that? That's quick. And I don't want to turn them into a paste by any means, but I do want to chop them quite fine. And this is exactly, I don't know if you guys can see, but that's exactly the consistency that you are going to be looking for. This, as you saw, that took seconds. Now we're going to mince our garlic, and I actually like to do the garlic by hand. I don't mind it, but ooh, that onion, it's making me cry. Those onions were very powerful today. And quick story time. Shepherd's pie was the first video I've ever recorded. Of course, for obvious reasons, it did not see the light of day because, you know, it wasn't a good video. I was very uncomfortable in front of the camera, and it was a great way to practice, but it couldn't. That video is deleted. It will not ever see the light of day because it was bad. It was so awful. So I've been making shepherd's pie for a while. When I was little, I used to love mashed potatoes and ground beef together. I used to make it in a different way. Like I used to make like a Cuban style ground beef, and, you know, make the mashed potatoes and eat it together, not like in a casserole way, like the way we're gonna do it now. But then one day I was watching the Food Network, and I don't even know who was cooking. I'm telling you, this was like years ago, probably more than like 6 or 7 years ago. And I was watching the Food Network, and I came across shepherd's pie, and I thought it was genius. I was like, how come I never thought of doing this, you know? So obviously I went straight into the kitchen and I recreated it. I've been, you know, giving it my own spin ever since and making it how I like it. That's why I'm saying this is not 100% authentic by any means, but it is my favorite, you know, shepherd's pie recipe, and I'm pretty sure it will be yours as well. Chop my rosemary here. Okay, and I'm just using rosemary and thyme. You really don't need anything else because it is a very rich dish in a sense. I'm going to quickly chop my herbs, and then we can go over to the stove so we can start cooking our beef. Okay, so I have a high side skillet here, and I have it on medium heat. For my ground beef, I'm using, I think it's a 94.7. It's a pretty lean cut meat because I don't want my shepherd's pie to be oily. I broke the meat apart just a little bit, but you don't want to break it too much because you really want to create that caramelization on the bottom of the meat, and it's going to get it really nice and kind of golden brown and delicious. So just leave it like that, don't touch it too much. So my meat has started to develop a little bit of color on the bottom, so now it's the perfect chance to season it with a little bit of salt, just a little bit. Remember, we are seasoning each step, so everything is nicely seasoned. So I'm gonna add a little bit of pepper. Let me move it around. So I'm going to let this develop a little more color. I think it looks a bit whiter of what it really is on camera. The meat has very pretty colors already, so I'm gonna let it continue cooking and then we'll move on. As you can see, my meat is looking quite good. My potatoes are also done cooking. I drained the water. I put them on a mixing bowl where we're going to be obviously making the mashed potatoes. And I also have, you can see here, a saucepan with my milk, well, with my half and half and my butter, and I'm going to let that get nice and warm. I don't know if you ever made mashed potatoes with cold milk before, but they just become a gluey mess. It is not good. It is not appetizing. You can pretty much throw it away at that point because it is not good. So make sure, it's crucial that you heat up your cream and your butter to have the perfect and delicious mashed potatoes. And now to my meat here, I'm going to add the onion, carrots, I'm also going to add my garlic, and this is still on medium heat. Now I'm going to mix everything together, and I'm going to let my carrots and onions, garlic cook for about 2 minutes before I add the rest of the ingredients. Okay, the meat is looking exactly how it should. And now to it, I'm going to add a little bit of flour. This is going to help thicken up the sauce as it cooks. I'm going to add my herbs right in there. So now I'm going to give this a quick mix. Okay, now we add our tomato paste right in there. Okay, that looks good. And again, you want to stir this so everything gets well combined and you can cook out the strong tomato paste flavor. Okay, once your meat looks something like this, as you can see, and it starts to form a little crust on the bottom, as you can see there. Now it's time for the fun part, which is to deglaze our pan very carefully with a little bit of wine. You can also use beer if you don't have wine, like a dark beer would work perfectly. And now you want to scrape the bottom of your skillet here. And again, you want to let your wine cook down so it can, to evaporate that alcohol. We don't want the alcohol, we want the wine flavor. Oh, this is looking absolutely amazing already. That looks so good. And now to it, I'm going to add my beef broth, a bit of Worcestershire sauce, I would say about a tablespoon or so. And then we just mix. And last but not least, we are adding our cheese and all of that good stuff right in there. Okay, mix again so everything is well incorporated. That looks perfect. Now I'm going to let this cook on medium heat for about, I would say, like 10 to 15 minutes. As you can see, it's pretty liquidy because we did add all of that beautiful broth and wine to create more flavor, but we don't want it this liquidy. We want it a little thicker. So I'm gonna let this cook for about 10 to 15 minutes. So as you can see, I have my potatoes in a bowl here. I also have my egg yolk, my milk and butter, and my Parmesan cheese. I did let my potatoes cool down quite a lot because since we have to add the egg yolk, we obviously don't want to scramble our egg. So that's why I let the potatoes cool down quite a little. So I'm going to mash my potatoes. You can do it with a potato ricer, you can do it with potato masher like I'm doing here, and you can leave this as creamy or as chunky as you wish. It all depends on what you like and how you like your potatoes. Okay, that looks pretty good. I am going to salt my potatoes a little bit, but just a little bit because we are going to add Parmesan cheese, and as you know, Parmesan cheese can be quite salty, so I only salted it a tiny bit. Now very gently I'm going to add my cream, and I'm going to add a little bit at a time because I don't know if I'm going to need more or less. And you don't want the potatoes to be too creamy. Like I personally love my potatoes very creamy. So if you made my mashed potato recipe, you know they are extremely buttery, creamy deliciousness, but that's not the case for this recipe. You want it to hold its shape a little bit, so you definitely don't want them too creamy. I didn't really need all of the mixture. Like I said, I am going to add a tiny bit more salt and add your egg yolk right in there. And you want to add the egg yolk for richness. It also gives your mashed potatoes a beautiful golden color. So that's really pretty and nice. Make sure it's very blended in. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let me tell you, this is quite a workout. And now, since our potatoes are pretty much done, our beef is pretty much done, we're going to preheat our oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. We're gonna let it come to temperature. It's probably gonna be ready by the time we are done assembling the whole thing. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you right here in just a second. Okay, and now the good stuff. To the mashed potatoes, we're going to add tons of Parmesan cheese. And when I mean tons, I mean don't be scared. Keep shredding the Parmesan cheese. And please, 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 I always say this in every single video. I used, obviously, cheese. Shred your own. It makes a ton of a difference. It really isn't that hard. And it really just, it melts so beautiful. Remember, the shredded cheese that you buy at the store, they have to coat it in, I don't even know what it's coated in, but I think it's like, maybe like cornstarch, something like that. So it doesn't stick together in the bag. So what that does is that it prevents that cheese from obviously melting into the beautiful goodness that it actually is. So it is quite important, if you can, to just buy the block and shred your own cheese. And there's a lot of Parmesan cheese in here, and this is gonna be so good. I'm telling you, this is going to be, ooh, baby. This is gonna be too good, too good. I said it was good like this, but I think I want to add a tiny bit more of milk. Just like the smallest amount more. Now it's perfect. Okay, so we got our mashed potatoes. Let's set that aside. Let me clean up a little bit. I'll see you back in just a second to assemble our shepherd's pie. The meat is ready. The potatoes are ready. We have our baking dish here. And for this, I'm using a pie dish just because my 8x8 baking dish that I usually use for this recipe, for the amount, it's literally underneath so many other baking dishes that I was like, you know what, this was on top, so I'm gonna grab this one. I do not want to struggle and just get the other one. So what I'm doing now is I have a little bit of butter, and I'm buttering the bottom of my baking dish here, of my pie dish, should I say, just so nothing sticks. And I also have, so you can see the pie dish on top of a baking dish. So what you want to do, it's very simple. Pour your meat mixture, make it as even as you can possibly can. Okay, we're going to sit the potatoes right on top, so make it very nice and even. I did try this for seasoning. I did ended up adding a tiny bit more salt because I needed a little more salt. And now for the potatoes, we are going to obviously put our potatoes right on top, just like so. Okay, and now with the back of my spatula here, I'm gonna try my best to make the potatoes into an even layer. Okay, so I think this looks pretty good. Obviously, I did my best making everything look pretty nice and even. Now, with the fork, you want to go all over your pie and make this little line, bridges looking thing. Doesn't have to be in any particular order, just however you want. And this is going to make the mashed potato get very nice and kind of golden brown and delicious. Add a little more of this cheese right on top. Now that we have this ready, I'm going to pop it in the preheated oven for about 25 to 30 minutes until the mashed potatoes are really nice and golden brown and the cheese has melted completely and has created the most beautiful crust. I'm going to show you exactly what it looks like, then we're going to try it. My shepherd's pie is finally, well, should I say my cottage pie, is finally out of the oven. I don't know if you guys can see, but look at that cheesy crust, and it's kind of crispy. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to hear. Do you hear that? It's really crispy because we loaded it with Parmesan cheese, and it's just perfection. I am not going to cut into it because obviously I want to take a picture and I want the picture to look cute, so I don't want to break it too much, but I am going to get, and this is still piping hot, it literally just came out of the oven like 5 minutes ago. So I'm trying my best here to get a little bit of meat, a little bit of mashed potatoes, but like I said, I don't want to break it too much because obviously it's going to fall apart. And when you go to serve it, make sure you let it rest for about 15 minutes because otherwise it's just going to fall apart on you and you don't want that. It's kind of like when you make lasagna that you have to let it rest for like 20 minutes or so it doesn't all fall apart on you. It's kind of the same thing. Oh, that's good. Wait, let me get a little more meat right here. Oh, this is glorious. Oh, it's so hot. So hot, but it's absolute perfection. Comment down below if you think this is more of like an Irish cottage pie or like an English cottage pie. Because I really don't know what it is. This is just my version. Like I said, nothing authentic, but absolutely 100%, 1000% delicious. And that's what matters to me. I hope you enjoyed it. And I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.